Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to tonight's City Council meeting. It's certainly great to have all of you here. This is Tuesday, June 5th, and we'd like to welcome Councilor Staggers to his first meeting back. And with that, we'll start with our roll call to identify your City Council.
Councilors Aguilar?
Here.
Anderson?
Here.
Entenmann?
Here.
Erpenbach? Here. Jameson?
Here.
Karski?
Here.
Rolfing?
Here.
Staggers?
Present.
Thank you. All 8 councilors are here, which is great. We'll start our meeting like we always do with an invocation. And tonight, we're very, very pleased to have Councilor Rex Rolfing will lead us in prayer. And then after Councilor Rolfing is done with prayer, if you'd remain standing, we'd appreciate it for our Pledge of Allegiance. Councilor Rolfing.
In one of my readings, I found one of our truly great Americans, Billy Graham's prayer for the nation. I'd like to read that to you tonight, and we'll use that as our prayer for opening. Our Father and our God, we praise you for your goodness to our nation, giving us blessing far beyond what we deserve. Yet we know all is not right with America. We deeply need a moral and spiritual renewal to help us meet the many problems we face. Convict us of our sin. Help us to turn to you in repentance and faith. Help set our feet on our path to your righteousness and peace. We pray today for our nation's leaders. Give them wisdom to know what is right and the courage to do it. You have said, "Blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord." May this be a new era for America as we humble ourselves and acknowledge you alone as our Savior and Lord. This we pray in your holy name. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Councilor Rolfing, again, thank you so much. We'll now move on to tonight's consent agenda. With that in mind, Councilor?
Mr. Mayor, I need to recluse myself.
Very good. Thank you. Thanks, Councilor. Council, are there any changes or any motions on tonight's consent agenda?
Move to approve, Karski.
Second, Jameson.
Councilor Karski's made a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda, seconded by Councilor Jameson. If there is no further discussion, a roll call vote, please.
Councilors Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jameson?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Thank you. This passed 7-0. We'll now move on to tonight's regular agenda. Any changes to the regular agenda, Council?
Move to approve, Jameson.
Second, Anderson.
Councilor Jameson's made a motion to approve tonight's regular agenda, seconded by Councilor Anderson, Jr. If there is no further discussion, a roll call vote, please.
Councilors Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Entenmann?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jameson?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
That has passed 8-0. Again, thank you for coming here tonight. We appreciate everybody who's in attendance. We know you've got so many other things you can do, but we're certainly glad to have you here. This is an opportunity for you to engage your council. We'd ask you to come forth and just identify yourself, and if you could keep your comments to 5 minutes or less, we would appreciate that. Is there anyone who wanted to address the council? Welcome.
I'm Travis Arneson with the Sioux Falls JCs. For the past 44 years, we have been hosting the fireworks at the fairgrounds. This is paid for by donations from all of us. From all over. We, the JCs, feel that this is an important holiday to help us celebrate our freedom and the men and women who help us obtain that freedom. The whole event cost $22,500. Since the mayor's picnic has been going on, we have changed the time of the event so that they don't overlap. So families can go to both events. And I guess I'm here to ask for any support that you might put towards this event. Thank you.
Travis, thank you very much. We do appreciate that. And Miss, would you mind introducing yourself as well to the people of Sioux Falls?
I'm Edith Harness, and I'm Travis's wife.
Very good. Thank you, Edith. And Travis, thank you as well for your stewardship with the JCs. We appreciate it. Is there anyone else who wanted to speak to the council tonight? Well, very good. Thank you so much. We'll now move on to item number 35.
Special one-day malt beverage license for Hy-Vee Incorporated to be operated at Hy-Vee Food Store Number 5, 3020 East 10th Street for Tavern on the Green events being held on July 7, 2012 and July 14, 2012.
Good evening, Jamie Palmer, licensing specialist. This event is to promote the varieties of beer that Hy-Vee carries. It was an idea that one of their employees came up with, and the applicant is here if there are any questions.
Council, any questions at all on this item? Would anybody like to make a motion? Yes, I'm sorry, Councilor Aguilar.
Move approval.
Thank you.
Second, Erpenbach.
It's been a motion to approve this item, seconded by Councilor Erpenbach. If there is no further comments on this, let's have a roll call vote, please.
Councilors Aguilar,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Intamin,
Yes.
Erpenbach. Yes. Jamison,
Yes.
Karski,
Yes.
Rolfing.
Yes.
Staggers.
Yes.
Thank you. This is passed 8-0. Item 36.
A second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property at North Bob Holla Drive and West Benson Road from the RC Recreation Conservation District to Sub-Area A of the Sanford Sports Complex Plan Development District, petition number 2012-02-14, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. Planning Commission recommends approval.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I need to step out on this.
Councilor Inman, thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council. My name is Dave Loveland, and I'm with the Planning Office. The applicant for this petition is Bob Winkles with Sanford Health. The parcel in question is about 5 acres in size, and they're currently constructing the field house of the Sanford Sports Complex on this. The purpose of the rezoning application is to ensure consistency with other development out in this area. That would include the Pentagon, potentials for tennis and ice facilities as well. So we want to make sure that it's included in the same zoning district and that the same regulations will apply.
Dave, thank you very much. Folks, this is a second reading, so you do have an opportunity to engage the council on this if you'd like. Would anybody like to talk to the council on this? Very good. Council, any questions or comments?
Move approval. Rolfing.
Second, Anderson.
Councilor Rolfing's made a motion to approve this item, seconded by Councilor Anderson, Jr. If there are no further questions or comments, a roll call vote, please.
Councilors Aguilar,
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Erpenbach. Yes. Jamison,
Yes.
Karski.
Yes.
Rolfing.
Yes.
Staggers.
Yes.
Thank you. That is passed 7-0. Item 37.
Second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, amending the revised ordinances of the city by adding community gardens as a permitted land use in all zoning districts of Appendix B, the zoning ordinance. Planning Commission recommends approval.
Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, members of the audience here in the fine Carnegie Town Hall, members of the viewer audience at Channel 16, and also members of the City Council. I'm Shauna Goldammer. I'm your Zoning Enforcement Manager. We're here this evening to adopt a community garden ordinance that is recommended for approval not only by the Planning Commission but our Urban Agriculture Task Force Committee. We've been meeting regularly as far as the Urban Agriculture Task Force goes and came up with a community garden ordinance based on public input and a lot of help from folks that are interested in gardening. I did hand Council Member Staggers our community garden guideline brochure that I handed out at the first reading, and I do have another copy if anybody would like one. Otherwise, this is going to be the rules that people have to engage in as far as community gardens go. The ordinance contains a definition and also allows community gardens in all zoning districts across the city of Sioux Falls. And with that, I would be happy to answer any questions you have.
Shauna, thank you as well. Again, folks, second reading, so would anybody like to comment on this in the audience? Very good. Council? Yes. Councilor Rolfe.
Again, I'd like to say that as Chair of the Land Use and Urban Ag Committee that we've worked hard at this and feel that we've come up with a good ordinance and would appreciate your support.
Councilor Rolfing, would you be willing to make a motion?
I certainly would. I would move approval.
Second, Karski.
Councilor Rolfing's made that motion, and it was seconded by Councilor Karski. Any further comments? Very good. A roll call vote, please.
Councilors Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Intiman?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jameson?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Thank you. That is passed 8-0. Item 38.
Second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, approving an offer to purchase real property from the City of Sioux Falls.
Hey, good evening. I'm Brent O'Neill with the Community Development Department representing this item. This item will bring very close to closure the project we've been working on the East Bank, the river ramp removal, and then subsequently working with the developer on the future Hilton Garden Inn project. This first slide is just, again, a quick exhibit. You should look familiar from the last reading. This property will be necessary to complete the hotel and the hotel footprint that the developer is proposing. This property encompasses about 35,000 feet of property. Will go to the developer. A portion along the Greenway will remain with the city for the Greenway project that will occur this summer, hopefully as well. The value of compensation, the value of this property is $900,000. Excuse me, I'm going to start over on that. $962,500 is the value. This is a unique arrangement when we're being compensated for this property a little bit differently, and that as part of the total development package, the developer agreed and proposed to demolish the river ramp as part of the total package, and then he's going to do some site remediation as well. That total project, ramp removal and site remediation, is going to be in excess of the value of the ramp. And so as that project is coming to an end and we transfer land, it will be a equalized trade in this transfer. The approval tonight gives the city the ability to enter into this real estate agreement to transfer property, and we would be scheduling the closing on the property for approximately the end of June. June 28th is a date we're using tentatively, and that's the end of the publishing period after tonight's action. A couple notes on the project as itself, as a whole. The completion of the river ramp is about a week from being complete. Probably the best way to describe it right now is that it's going through the punch list items, the final cleanups, all the demolition, et cetera, has been completed. But we do have a few of those punch list items that the developer and the contractor, Sukup Construction, are finishing. We do have a few documents that we'll execute in June to bring this to a close. That transfer of land, again, will occur at the end of June. And then by the early part of July, it should be full steam ahead on the construction of the hotel project. I did want to acknowledge that Craig Lloyd, a partner in the River Greenway Hospitality Development, is here, and he might want to speak as well, and certainly all of us here could answer any questions.
Brent, thank you very much. Is there anyone in the audience, including Mr. Lloyd, who would like to speak to this item before we go to the council? Mr. Lloyd, would you like to come forward? Welcome.
Craig Lloyd, 3130 West 57th Street, Suite 112. Couple things. I just drove by the site, and best I can see out of both eyes is that all the junk is out of the river, and we've got stacked up on the city land and some of the Shoneman land to start the final grading of the river banks. So I'm proud to say that we're out of the environmental issues that may come up. Mr. Soka, and we had a meeting today, and he should be out of there by Friday with all the major stuff, and it's just going to get the grass seed down and get it looking fairly nice before we move back into the site that we're purchasing. Another update for you that may know, maybe not know, but we've added 34 more units, so we went to another floor. So it's a 5-story building now instead of a 4-story building. We just got our letter of commitments from the bank today, so we're moving forward on the financing. We got to tie this down, tie some TIF items and some bid items and finalize all that. Brent's been unbelievable working through this and trying to keep me patient. We're expecting to break ground sometime between, we're hoping July 15th and August 1st. And I'm trying to get this to be a 9-month project. Everybody's telling me it's a 12 to 13-month project, but I've been told no before. So I'm just here to answer questions.
Mr. Lloyd, thank you. Yes, Councilor Staggers.
Yes, Craig, you mentioned within a week or so. Does that mean you're going to have the land all cleared off and the rest of the ramp is still there taken care of?
The ramp's all down. All the footings in the river are down. All we've got to do is clean up the stuff on the bank and then follow some specifications laid out in the Walker study. And that should be done by Friday.
By Friday.
Or by Monday or Tuesday. I don't know what about the weather. And by the way, congratulations on your election.
Oh, thank you.
Well, thank you, Mr. Lloyd. We appreciate that. Thank you. And thanks for your investment in our town. Is there anybody else who wanted to speak to this item before I went to the council? Very good. Council, any questions, comments, or motions?
Move to approve Entenmann.
Second.
Councilor Edmonds made that motion to approve this item number 38, seconded by Councilor Rolfing. If there are no further comments, a roll call vote, please.
Councilors Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Entenmann?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jameson?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Thank you. That is passed 8-0. Item 39.
A first reading and ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, amending Article 9, Chapter 38 of the revised ordinances of the city by defining and establishing procedures for special events.
Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Kelby Maris with Parks and Recreation. This ordinance change is in an effort to provide structure to our special event process for all events that are held on public property, not only in the park system, but on public streets as well. This ordinance does include a proposed application fee and also defines insurance requirements for special events.
Kelby, thank you. Folks, this is a first reading. So, Council, up to you. Any questions or comments of Kelby? Would anybody like to set a date of hearing for the second reading for Tuesday, June 12th at 7 p.m.?
So moved, Erpenbach.
Second Entenmann.
Councilor Erpenbach's made that motion, seconded by Councilor Entenmann. Is there any discussion? Very good. A roll call vote, please.
Councilors Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Entenmann?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jameson?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Thank you. That is passed 8-0. Item 40.
First reading and ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, providing supplemental appropriations in the amount of $4,032,000.
Mr. Reck.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. This ordinance would supplement the 2012 budget for the Sales and Use Tax Capital Improvement Fund. There are a number of projects that would be funded under this ordinance utilizing funds that remained at the end of 2011 and are currently unobligated. As some of the council members had requested, we do have representatives from the 4 departments that are that have projects included in this ordinance. They are here and available to provide a brief overview of their projects if you would like to have that. Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy.
Councilor Henneman? I would like to, if we could have the respective directors come up, probably start, I think, on the list I have here with the library, and just kind of explain again to us, if they might, and answer any questions we have. Briefly.
Mary, would you come up first? And then, Councilor Henneman, would you mind just listing library, and then what should we do next?
Facilities management would be next.
Facilities management, and then?
Parks and Rec.
Parks and Rec.
Engineering.
And engineering.
And the street department.
Okay.
And then I believe we had the zoo in there too, didn't we? Parks and Rec.
In Parks and Rec. Okay, very good.
Sorry.
Library will start. Mary Johns, welcome.
Thank you. Mary Johns, Library Director. There are 4 main reasons that we really want to do the RF and AMH. And first, let me say the RF is radio frequency identification, where we would insert a tag in each item. That tag gives us the ability to identify not only the item that is being checked out, but to also take care of the security. So by reading that tag, that takes care of both checking out and security. Then the AMH, which is the automated materials handling, reads that tag as well, checks the item in, resensitizes it, and then the beauty of the AMH is that the equipment reads that tag and sorts it to a predefined sort that we make up. So, for example, at a branch library, we may say we want all of the adult materials in one bin, all the kids' materials in another bin, so then we don't have to sort those again. We just take them from the bin, put them on the cart, and shelve them. We may say we want all exceptions to go to the downtown library, or we might be able to sort by branches. At downtown library, because there is greater space in the back room, we would anticipate putting larger bins and more bins so that we can then increase the delivery service and effectiveness of our courier system. So it may become a central sort as we continue to utilize materials and route them among our various branches so that we're getting more bang for our buck in terms of the materials that we circulate. So the reasons for doing this are several, one of which is truly improved customer service, because we then can have the materials back on the shelf faster so that customers have access to them more quickly. Because of the sort and the accuracy of the equipment, we have fewer errors to deal with, so there's less time spent finding the materials on the shelf or correcting errors, looking for holes, and making those processes. The other item is that customers benefit more, because if we're not putting materials on the shelf and finding lost items and all of that business, we're able to help individual customers more readily. And seriously, that's what we're about, is connecting people with the information and the resources that we have. So this gives us a great opportunity to have a much better relationship with our customers and do more in terms of connecting people with information, helping kids learn to read, more story times, more help with job applications, et cetera. At the same time, then the second main reason is staff productivity. Truthfully, I've done this before, and it cuts the time in half in most of the processes that we do. So that really does allow us to be much more efficient. And again, that puts us in the hands of the customer much more readily. This is an investment that will help us ensure that going forward, we have the staffing levels to keep up with the business, as well as to add those kinds of programs that our customers are asking for and needing. And so because most of the manual tasks are taken care of by the equipment, we can put people's minds to work and take advantage of our staff skills, which are many and varied. And so that really makes a difference. There's also a health issue, because much of what staff are doing in terms of the processes with checking materials in and out, there's a lot of repetitive motion concerns, as well as a lot of lifting and toting of carts. So we can see a decrease in those kinds of things, and staff are happier and more productive. And then, quite honestly, it's a fiscally responsible thing to do. We anticipate, and other institutions or installations of this product show, that RF and AMH systems pay for themselves in 2 to 3 years. In addition, then, because we have more staff time with customers and we reduce costs for lost items and so forth, in the end, we have a huge return on our investment, and we can reallocate. And we're showing that we can, in most instances, be able to reallocate 2 staff members to other services in our system. And after we've recouped that cost, there's an 8 to 10 year life at least on the equipment as well. So you have my biased opinion.
Great, thank you. Rather than having Mary sit down, Council, any questions of Mary before she sits down? We can certainly always bring her back up. Councilor Staggers.
Yeah, Mary, you talked about increased productivity and so forth, which is so important. With that increased productivity, is there any possibility we can maybe reduce the actual costs or subsidies for the libraries a little bit?
What we anticipate doing with the increased productivity is, for example, and I think I mentioned this earlier, that we will be able to open Prairie West Library with fewer new hires. And then because we'll have staff who are able to do more work with our community, there are a lot of things that we would like to be able to do to reach the community, and a lot of that has to do with literacy and working with other organizations where we can partner and identifying the needs in our community that are more diverse than the kinds of things we're able to do now. So we're really looking at taking those staff members that we're able to gain the efficiencies from and reallocate them to really more value-added kinds of services.
Well, Mary, thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we had facilities management, or central services. Welcome, Sue.
Thank you. Good evening. Sue Kwan-Beckett, Director of Central Services. So the $90,000 that we're looking at here is to finish off the roofing project that we're just starting right now. We have ordered the slate, and physical work will begin in July for the roof. And as you know, it's original to the building, so it's really important that that be completely repaired. And then there's a lot of stone work, joints, seals that are missing and are causing water problems potentially within the building that we need to take care of, as well as other concrete work. So the majority, the roof and the north side of the building are being taken care of in the project that's underway right now. What this $90,000 would cover is the other 3 sides of the building in terms of windows and the stonework, and then replacing the east side awning entranceway, as well as the retaining wall over there.
And Sue, the building you're talking about is the one that we're in right here.
The Carnegie.
Called the Carnegie. Very good.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Council, any questions of Sue? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Councilor Enneman, next.
Parks and Rec.
Parks and Recreation. Don, thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. Don Kearney with Parks and Recreation. The funding for Parks and Recreation would allow us to award the base bid on Phase 2 of the River Greenway improvements, and it would also allow us to award 2 alternates. We're going to do a little show and tell for you today because we normally don't talk about step river edges and urban water features every day, and so I'd like to be able to reference some visuals for you as well. The step river edge, essentially what this would do would allow us to build the river walls and the step river edge from the south side of 8th Street from the south side of 8th Street 100 feet south along the east bank. It is also, if this alternate is not funded, that first 100 feet of riverbank that you see there would be grass instead of river walk and the step river edge that you see there. As far as the water feature goes, which is the second alternate, it would be a water feature in the upper plaza adjacent to the new Hilton Garden Inn Hotel. This water feature, well, it's really not designed to be used like our Pioneer Park spray ground that we have. It's not intended to be a destination type water feature. It is similar in nature. There would be tubes of water that would shoot back and forth between different features within the water feature. And it would also have jets that would shoot up from the concrete plaza as well. The design also calls for the feature to be lit at night, so obviously it would be a nice visual in the evening in the downtown area. And then part of the alternate also includes chlorination and filtration of the water feature as well, so that the water is recaptured and filtered and recirculated and chlorinated on a continuous basis. I want to be clear that we expect people that really will love interacting with this feature, but again, it's not intended to be a destination type feature where you bring your towel and your picnic basket and those types of things. We thought some of these images of some of the other cities that have water features in their downtowns would be helpful to help illustrate what you might expect upon the completion of this project or this alternate. As you can see, most people are in their street clothes, they're not in their swimming suits, and they don't have their bath towels with them. It's really more of an interactive feature. If you happen to be around, you may choose to interact with it. I'd also tell you that we reviewed these plans. That one's sideways. I think Tori might be able to turn that for us. That's a visual of what it might look like at night. But I'd tell you that in our design review meetings with downtown Sioux Falls and also with the adjacent property owners, as we met with them, there was great interest in this alternate. Before I turn it over to Elizabeth to talk about the zoo project, I also want to let you know that we do want to request an amendment to the CIP resolution next Tuesday, as well as a supplemental appropriation. We put the $342 of sales tax dollars in there as far as the supplemental appropriation goes, but we didn't put the private money that would come from the society in there. The way it works is that the society writes us a check and then we build the project, and so that wasn't incorporated in there, and so that would be the purpose of the amendment. So I just wanted to make you aware of that, and we'll get that ready for next Tuesday. And then I just mentioned some other cities that have these water features: Rapid City, Iowa City, Omaha, Minneapolis, Des Moines. They all have a feature of some type in their downtown area. With that, I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Councilor Stegers.
Yes, Don, the water feature is about projected at $450,000. Is that right?
Yes, I believe that's very close. 430,000.
Oh, 430,000. There have been a number of people that have talked to me about this, and I mentioned this earlier in the informational meeting. Some people have said the real water feature in the Greenway is the Big Sioux Falls. And so that's the water feature that where the real focus should be, instead of coming up with this water feature, which is going to be in front of the Hilton Hotel. And so some people are wondering, is this really necessary? How do you answer people who are saying, we already have a nice water feature with the falls, and why do we need this in front of the Hilton?
Well, I think the purpose of the River Greenway is to really get people to interact along the River Greenway, so there's something interesting to do while you're down there. As you happen to stroll through downtown and you're on the Riverwalk, you can shop in a retail store, you can eat in a restaurant, you can spend time sitting eating your lunch on the step river edges. If you happen to have your kids along, you'd be able to interact with the play feature. Obviously, it lends itself to having some interest and something to do in the downtown area.
Also, in regard to the steps down into the Big Sioux River, this is going to be our second steps into the Big Sioux. We have Sharapa Place. Now we have the Hilton steps. Are we going to have future steps in the Greenway project?
There is a potential for it, but at this point we've not done any detailed design on additional phases at this point.
The steps, how much do they cost?
The Step River Edge feature is $295,000.
Okay. That's all.
Councilor Urbanbach.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Don, for providing us some details on this particular project. The water feature and the steps both are quality of life issues that we're really looking at the River Greenway in a different way than what we've seen in the past. And I just wanted to share with you, I don't have a question, but I wanted to share with you, I was on the River Greenway Friday evening and the place was packed. And it's not technically open yet. The ribbon cutting is this Friday, by the way. And it was amazing to see people riding their bikes and stopping, just as you were saying. People are doing that already. They're stopping to eat, they're enjoying the evening, they're doing those kinds of things. And to add those features to it really is about adding to that quality of life that comes with this particular project. And I would encourage council to support this. This is one of those things that's going to change the face of this downtown Sioux Falls.
Councilor Jameson.
Thank you, Don. Can you tell me how big this feature is as far as
Width and... Yeah, I might not be able to directly, but I think people in the back would be able to give me the
Sure.
dimensions of it. John Jacobson, he's with Confluence, the landscape architect on the project.
Good evening, Council. John Jacobson, Confluence, 524 North Main Avenue. The plaza that the water feature goes into is approximately 30 feet by 30 feet. It's a little bit bigger on some sides with some of the adjacent pedestrian walkways and seat wall and stuff. That's the approximate size.
John, in terms of 30 feet by 30 feet, if you were to look at where Councilor Jameson is and Councilor Anderson Jr. is, how far is that?
From there, it'd be about from you to the wall.
From
you to that wall.
From me to the back wall?
Yep.
Okay.
So, I will add to what Don said about these water features in the fact that it is very much a public infrastructure type destination point for people along the Greenway. These are a very common feature in most Midwestern cities. We've done other ones within the state of South Dakota, much smaller than this. This would by far be the largest on the eastern side of the state. It's very much the master plan for the Greenway is set up so that each block has different destination points within it. This is one of the ones that is in this particular block section. It does just happen to fall in front of the hotel, but with the redevelopment of that site, working with the development agency doing that, it actually gave us more real estate to incorporate this kind of feature. So, there's a give and take there working with that developer to be able to get more room. This is very much a traditional Midwestern river in the fact that the downtown portion of it's up high compared to the river. So this project, in essence, is also a project about accessibility, providing steps, ramps, and other walkways to get down to the river.
Thank you, John. Councilor Jameson, any follow-ups?
If I could, I'm looking at this picture and I'm just a little turned around, maybe.
Sure, you bet. If you look at to the left there, you'll see Falls Landing, which is the current hotel on the north side of 8th Street. You'll see the kind of the yellow building and the Country Inn and Suites sign there. The white box to the right-hand side of the drawing, that is the new hotel. We just didn't have the details at the time we assembled this drawing. And then, so what you see on the left side then is the ramp that comes down from 8th Street and also a set of steps that come down into this secondary plaza area. And then just off the left-hand side of the picture are the additional steps and ramp that gets down to the river itself. So this is really an intermediate transition between the public road and the river.
Is there another picture of the layout, just a bigger scale?
Sure.
There we go.
So if you're looking at this picture, Councilor, the water feature is kind of on the rear portion of the drawing. You'll see kind of the jets or geysers poking up out of the air right there. So that's where the plaza is at. And there's so much vertical change here between the public street and the bottom of the river. We try to use these intermediate destination points to be able to pull people down into the river. The biggest problem with the downtown portion of the Greenway right now is a lot of the members of the public don't know what's there. And they've been afraid to go down there because they don't know what's down there. So these areas give us a chance to bring people down.
Can you make the river that color all the time? That would be great.
Well, we're working at it.
Councilor Jameson, thank you. Councilor Aguilar?
Don or John, could one of you tell us why this would have to be done now, why it's not something that could be added at a later time?
There's so much infrastructure that goes underneath the pavement to make this water feature happen that it's just not practical to do it. We'd have to essentially tear up that whole intermediate plaza to do it in the future, which obviously would be a waste of capital funds. The other thing to address Councilor Stayer's question about the cost associated with the water feature is more than just the jets and the fountain and stuff. It also has to do with the chlorination system, as Don mentioned, but there's a pump house which needs to be built to house the pumps to make this thing operate because it is along the river and we can't allow it to flood. Also, the greenway is the corridor for the sewer main that feeds all of downtown, so we have to be very careful about how we dispose the water out of this area, just because of the potential smells that can come from the sewer. So, you know, there's a whole lot that goes into this.
Councilor Snagers.
Yes, taking a look at the pictures of the water feature, I mean, in other communities, I've seen very similar water features. So this is not very unique. And if we're going to spend $450,000, it should be rather unique. Was there any thought given to actually having a water feature within the Big Sioux River itself?
Sure.
Having some water spouts, make it really unique that people just never really see. This I've seen many times.
Well, the problem with having a water feature in the river itself is right now the river is uncontrolled as far as part of the river that runs through downtown. It's fed by Skunk Creek. Currently, the Corps of Engineers and FEMA don't have control of that part, so the water levels really can fluctuate through this section. It can also be literally dry. It was dry a couple times in the 70s. Obviously, we would try not to have that again, but that makes the possibility of having features in the water pretty hard. Plus, it's under the jurisdiction of the United States Army. They just don't like having things in the river like that, and it's very controlled. So everything we've done to date on this, the planning wise, was approved by the Corps of Engineers and took over 4 years. So,
yeah. Just one last comment. Once again, if we're going to spend almost $500,000, if we could come up with something maybe a little different or a little more unique than this. I mean, like I said, these are throughout the country. And
well, I would suggest to you that they are very unique. There's a basic human element to interact with the water. That's the reason why it's located in a paved area, so everyone can get to that water. Literally, it's just the sound of the water which makes a place more pleasant to stay and to eat lunch and to take a break or to be able to walk through. So I would suggest to you that it is unique.
John, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, team, this is a first reading, and so let's go now to I'm sorry, Councilor Antoman.
We have a few more here.
Yes, I was just going to go to that. We're going to now go to Elizabeth with to talk about the zoo. Thank you, Elizabeth. Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor Huther, City Council members. It's always a pleasure to be here in front of you. The request that you have before you for $340,000 for the zoo is to round out a project that's currently under construction. And the total project is $4.2 million. As you probably know, it will really take away some 50-year-old infrastructure in the zoo that really had outlived its useful life and replace that with a nice, transparent, iconic ticketing entrance to help our guests get in more quickly and start their adventure at the zoo. And once they get in through that entrance, they see a lovely greeting plaza and a brand new snow monkey exhibit. This piece of money helps us finish out the second phase of that project, which is renovating the museum building. And again, helping us provide for better member processing, helping us drive revenue through earned revenue streams. And I'd like to walk you through the pieces of money that have already been assembled so you have a little bit of context for this $340,000 that we're requesting of you tonight. The original city CIP funds were $1.5 million. That was matched by $1.5 million in Zoological Society private funds. We also did a rhino project a couple of years ago and came in under budget, and so the city had $257,000 in carry forward funds from that, and that will be matched by private funds from the zoo to the tune of $257,000. Then we're in front of you asking for $340,000 to round out that museum renovation, and again, the Zoo Society has assembled private funds to match that for $340,000. So what will this get us if we're all in together on this project? Well, it will get us an improved entrance, and that's increasingly important as we grow the number of people who want to come to the zoo. And I'm very happy to tell you that last year we had 249,000 visitors that walked through the doors of the zoo, and that's almost double what it was 6 years ago. It also will improve and expand our education space. And again, we've about doubled our educational offerings and the kids we've served in really unique settings just in the last 6 years. And our education space is woefully small. We just can't accommodate all these bright young minds that want to learn at the zoo. And that's really the cornerstone of why our zoo exists. And so we need to expand our education space, and we plan to do that by sort of flip-flopping our current retail space and our education space, giving our education space a really good new area, a larger area to accommodate those kids, but also moving our retail right up onto the plaza so that people can, on their way out the door or on the way in, help us support that mission by buying a plush animal or something else to commemorate their visit. It'll also give us really important nuts and bolts things for our guests, like expanded restroom facilities. And again, with double the number of attendees, we need more restrooms, and we need a family restroom. And as I said, we're relocating that gift shop to help us earn income, and we're really streamlining our membership and guest processing so people get in the door and start that adventure at the zoo right away and have that pleasant experience rather than standing in line. So we're really appreciative of all the support you've given us over the years, and we do hope that you'll take this move to double your money and partner up with the Zoo Society.
Council, any questions? Councilor Stagers?
Yes, Elizabeth, you mentioned the $257,000 worth of city money that was saved. Why can't we just use that as part of the $340,000?
We really believe that we have scaled this project. We've reduced the scope and reduced the scope from the initially price tag $5 million project down to 4.2. And our partners in the city and the Zoo Society have really determined that this is probably a baseline for what we can do and accomplish the goals that we set out for with this project. By investing that $340,000, you're helping us to round out the museum portion of the renovation. We can do less, certainly, but we want to do the very best job this time around, because this is the one chance we get to rework that museum front for many, many, many years, and we want it to be something that really serves the kids of Sioux Falls, gives every child an opportunity to come to zoo classes or zoo camps, and of course really helps us move our members and guests through so they're not standing in lines, they're not standing in line for restrooms. Much of this is a nuts and bolts business operations kind of investment, and we'd love for you to be a part of it.
If I could ask, will the entrance help protect the animals that are stuffed? I've heard, a big concern is because of the opening of the doors and so forth, the different humidity, different temperature, that there's eventually going to have to be some glass barrier to try to have more control of the temperature and humidity. Is this going to help with that or not?
It's interesting and really informed that you asked that. The original project, when it was first price tagged at $5 million, had a different design to do that. And as I said, we reduced the scope and reduced the scope. There will be a good measure of protection for the mounted collection simply because we're moving people through that outdoor ticketing entrance. So there will be less opening of the doors, less change in humidity and temperature. And I want to assure you, we view that collection as a real treasure. And it's fun for me when I have professionals from other natural history museums come through and say, wow, what a collection. It truly is a one-in-the-world type of collection, and we understand what a value that is. And so we bring in taxidermists many times a year to inspect all of our animals, all of the mounts, do whatever repair is necessary. We have our education staff spend a great deal of their time cleaning and taking care of those animals. So I just want to assure you that that value of that collection is not in any way lost on us.
But in the future, is it anticipated we are going to have to spend some money to make sure we get those mounted animals, in a really controlled environment? I mean, in the next few years, in other words, are you going to be asking for some more money for that?
In the future, I think it would be very wise for us to look at the lighting system within the zoo museum building, because that's going to help protect those animals, but it's also going to save operating costs. I mean, we have a pretty antiquated lighting system that we're going to need to take a look at. And again, that was part of this original project, but the funds weren't there. And, I think we're very proud with the private fundraising we've been able to do. And so we, always are going to be good stewards of everybody's money, and we're going to sharpen our pencils as much as we can to get the most value out of the shekels that we have.
And just one final question. You talked about the increased number of people coming to the zoo, and that's fantastic because that means increased revenue. And so with the increased revenue, are you devoting any of this to CIP programs, or is it just pure operational, or are you putting it in reserve, or just exactly what?
Every year we take on smaller renovations out of our operating budget to rework older portions of the zoo. That's a commitment that we've made, so those don't even hit the CIP. And we're pleased to do that because it's been necessary. In order to get so many people to be excited about a visit to the zoo, we've had to do a lot of cleanup and shore up on what in some places is a 50-year-old zoo.
Okay, so yes, so
the answer is yes. We've been doing that all along. We've been taking operating money and using it toward renovations of the older facilities of the zoo, and that's sort of looked at separately from these large CIP projects.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Sayers, thank you. Elizabeth, thank you. Councilor Inman, we go to Public Works next.
Thank you.
Public Works, thank you. Welcome, Chad.
Good evening, Chad Hebe with the Engineering Division of Public Works. I will continue the exciting discussion on projects, even though some may not feel it's in the same context as the Greenway or the zoo, but I certainly feel they are. First, I'll talk about the $600,000 regarding engineering, and then I'm going to speak to 3 of the projects that are under the street department category. And I will say that all of the projects that I'm going to speak about are either completely designed and funded and we have funded the designs, or else the designs are funded and they are in some stage of final design, whether it's 50%, 75%, and I'll give you a few details like that. The first project is 14th Street from Minnesota Avenue to Phillips Avenue. This consists of reconstructing the existing surfacing, and then probably something I got to highlight is we're going to add a dedicated right turn lane as you're westbound to go north. And so when we're done with the project, as you approach Minnesota from the west, there's going to be 3 lanes for westbound traffic. The south lane is a dedicated left turn lane. The center lane will be either another left turn lane or a through lane, and then we'll have the dedicated right turn lane in the north lane. What this does is it increases the capacity, it reduces the delay, and probably one of the biggest things it does is when traffic backs up today, it backs up through the intersection of 14th and Dakota. We've had an accident problem there, and then people that are at that intersection, they can't go anywhere because they got cars that have to clear. So the estimate is $1.125 million. We'll be using $300,000 of this supplement to completely fund the project. The design is complete. The bid date is June 14th, and the construction schedule is estimated to be mid-July to mid-November. The second project is the intersection of 26th and Grange. It's a total reconstruction of the pavement with some minor utility work and accessibility improvements. The construction estimate is $300,000. The tentative bid date is August 10th, and the estimated construction schedule is mid-September to mid-November. So those are the $600,000 for engineering. And if you'd like, I could move on to the streets. Okay. The first project there is Prairie Avenue from 4th Street to 8th Street. It is a concrete joint repair project similar to work we've done downtown on 41st Street, etc. The construction estimate is $200,000. The tentative bid date is June 28th, and the estimated construction schedule is late July to late September. The next project is another concrete joint repair project on 41st Street from Kelly Avenue to Kiwanis Avenue. Kelly is 1 block east of Louise. Earlier this year we finished up work through Kelly. This will be probably one of the final projects we have to do on 41st Street for the next couple years, but we'll be back on it in 15 with another project. The estimate is $250,000. The tentative bid date is August 2nd, and construction is scheduled from early September to early November. And then the final project I'm going to talk about is Southeastern Avenue from 18th Street to 26th Street. That project consists of an asphalt overlay and then a restriping project. So when we're done, we'll have 2 northbound lanes from 26th to 18th, and then we will also have the existing 1 southbound lane as it sits today. The other big portion of this is that you'll have 2 northbound lanes going into 18th, but when you get to 18th or River Boulevard, we will now have dual left turn lanes. And I'll just give you some projections that we think we'll see. First of all, we anticipate there'll be about, in the morning peak, there'll be about 200 cars that now will not stop and go west on 26, but will continue on Southeastern and make that west turn at 18th Street. What that does then, it allows us to retime the signal at 26th and Southeastern, and we are projecting that the delay in the morning peak, the average delay will be reduced from 106 seconds per vehicle down to 55 seconds per vehicle. So a tremendous improvement there. And now, even though we're adding 200 cars to the intersection of 18th and Southeastern, by adding the dual left lanes, we will also reduce the delay there in the morning peak from 38 seconds per vehicle down to 31. The construction estimate is $380,000. The tentative bid date is June 28th, and the estimated construction schedule is the month of August.
Well, Chad, I'm fascinated by it. I don't know about the others, but
well, this was a good project to end on because
it was very good. Thank you.
We'll just hope our projections are close.
It's great. Council, any questions for Chad and the Public Works team? Councilor Staggers.
Yes. Chad, if you were given another $1 million, so to speak, could you spend it this year on traffic control or streets or engineering?
I would say that all of our major projects for 2013, the designs are all funded. That's why we have come back. Like for 14th Street, we've asked for $300,000. That's what we're short of because we've committed funds to get projects ready for next year. Mm-hmm. We, I don't per se have a list that I could share on what we would do with the $1 million. I will say that Public Works fully supports the supplemental appropriation as it's laid out in front of you.
Chad, I think Councilor Staggers is asking, though, if you had an extra $1 million, could you spend it in this construction season? Is that fair, Councilor Staggers?
That's right. Uh-huh.
I think it would be a real struggle just because of the time it takes to get these projects designed and so on and so forth. Most of the projects that we've talked about tonight, we started probably 3 to 4 months ago. They're not that difficult of projects, but even with getting the supplementary appropriations at this time of the year, we're going to be challenged to get a couple of these done if the weather doesn't cooperate.
Councilor Anderson, Jr.
Chad, as you say, you may struggle to get a couple of these done. One of them isn't the Southeastern project, is it?
No, that's
I'm sure there's a great concern on the council and maybe even the mayor that travel that road quite extensively. So.
Well, we fully understand that with the proximity to 26th Street and I-229, that traffic control will be a very key portion of that project. But it's relatively a simple project.
Now, also, when you're talking about changing the timing of 26 and Southeastern, does that also include the timing of the rail lines, that how the trains run through there?
I don't even know how to respond to that, but you realize I'm just the city engineer, right? So I will say no to that one. If I had that power, it would have been done long ago. So
thank you.
Council, very good. Councilor Heineman, are there any others?
Yeah.
Galen's got
Oh, I'm
two.
sorry, Galen, please. Galen Huber, welcome.
Good evening. Galen Huber, Street Fleet Manager for Public Works Department. I'm going to address the last two because those directly impact the campus down at streets. The first one is $350,000 for the funding of the salt dome conveyors. The salt dome conveyors were built in 2000, 2001. That's when it was installed. At that time, they put in what was the best material for a conveyor. I can tell you that in the past 5 years, each of the last 5 years, that conveyor has handled over 19,000 tons of salt each year. That amount of salt on that metal has fatigued the metal. Over the winter, we had an inspection done, and we found the amount of fatigue that we had in there was critical. My success in doing snow removal requires salt, and if I can't get rock salt into the domes, it has to set outside. And if it sets outside, it's no longer rock salt, it's boulder salt. It gets huge, consolidated, and I can't put it out. So I need to be able to get it into the domes, and this would allow me to go in with better materials, stainless steel in some of the more contact points with the salt, and alleviate the deterioration. The estimate that we got from North American Dome Corp is that I will increase the life by about 3 times over what we did. So I'll probably get 30 years of life out of this, where I only got 10 years of life out of the last one, just because of materials, stainless steel, so that we use it on those contact points. That's the first one. The last one is over the winter we had a backup of gray water in our Fleet Street facility campus. It's a large building down there. We have a lot of drains. And in the process of going down there and examining it, we found out that we had some potential problems with our sewer line down there. The building was built over 22 years ago. I've had a contractor come out. He's routed, jetted, and cameraed most of the lines. He finished up today, and we're going to get the report on it. I do have some failures underneath concrete, and this $300,000 would go in and correct that problem. So that my sanitary sewer works for the people that report to that facility, which is right around 70.
Councilman Inman, are there any others?
No, I believe that answers it. I like the way you use gray water for sewage. That's good.
So, well, very good. Council, this is a first reading. So the public, you'll have an opportunity to come back to the council if the council moves on with a second reading. And the date that we're looking at for that second reading is Tuesday, June 12th at 7 p.m. Council, would anybody be interested in making a motion to have that happen?
So move, Anderson.
Second, Aguilar.
Councilor Anderson Jr. has made that motion to set the hearing and second reading on this particular item for Tuesday, June 12th at 7 p.m. And it was seconded by Councilor Aguilar. Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Yes, Councilor Hanneman.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to thank all the departments for coming forward and giving us this recap of the action that we took. I think it's very good, and I like the way we were able to take and spread this out to a number of different projects throughout the city. Thank you.
Councilor Hanneman, thank you. Well, very good. If we could have a roll call vote, please.
Councilors Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Intiman?
Yes.
Erpenbach? Yes. Jameson?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Thank you. That is passed 8-0. Item 41.
First reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, amending Chapters 11 and 42 of the revised ordinances of the city by changing the enforcement agency for nuisance vegetation from Parks and Recreation to Planning and Building Services.
Kevin, welcome.
Good evening. Kevin Smith with Planning and Building Services. This proposed ordinance modification would really just memorialize the transition from Parks and Recreation to Planning and Building Services for the nuisance vegetation program. Essentially, all references to grass and weeds would now be under Chapter 11. That is property maintenance. Chapter 42 would simply then be dedicated to forestry. We think this is a good change for both forestry and for planning and building services. We also propose a couple of minor modifications to things like where we will not mow on rural section roads, and also how we're going to handle large undeveloped lots. And there's also some additional information about forestry. In case you have any questions, Kelby Miras from Parks and Recreation, he's also here.
Council, if there are no questions, would anybody want to set a hearing for the second reading for Tuesday, June 12th at 7 p.m. for this item?
So moved, Karski. Second, Entenmann.
Councilor Karski's made that motion, seconded by Councilor Entenmann. If there is no further discussion, a roll call vote, please.
Councilors Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Entenmann?
Yes.
Urbanbach?
Yes.
Jameson?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Thank you. That is passed 8-0. Item 42.
A resolution authorizing Siouxland Libraries to gift library shelving to the Grant County Library.
Mary, thank you for speaking to this item.
Thank you. Mary Johns, Library Director. This shelving was actually gifted to the Siouxland Libraries sometime back and was in the Colton Library. And so we are sharing that odds and ends shelving with the Grant County Library that was making an expansion.
Council, would anybody like to, first, would anybody like to speak to this item? All right, thank you. Council?
Move for approval, Anderson.
Second, Rolfing.
Councilor Anderson Jr. has made a motion. Second,
Mr. Mayor, I just have a quick question.
Would you, Councilor Staggers, we'll get the motion, then I'm going to come right back to you.
Okay.
Thank you. Councilor Anderson Jr. has made a motion to approve this item, and it was seconded by Councilor Rolfing. Thank you, Councilor Rolfing. Now, Councilor Staggers.
Yeah, I was going to ask Mary. Mary, do you have any idea how much that is that we are gifting in monetary terms?
Councilor Staggers, I don't have a number on that because this was shelving that we received from someone else years ago, and it's stuff that we've used for a long time, and it was odds and ends pieces, different sizes, et cetera. So I have no idea.
Oh, okay.
Would you mind giving Councilor Staggers your gut?
$150.
150?
I mean, really, it's not.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought you were going to say 150,000 or something.
Oh, gosh. Not quite yet. Because we had used it, and then we've replaced with odds and ends furniture, too.
So you're giving a $150 gift
There you
to
go.
Grant County Library.
And they're very pleased that we are.
Very good. Very good.
They're even going to come and pick it up.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you. Well, Council, we do have a motion, and it was seconded. If there's no further discussion, a roll call vote, please.
Councilors Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Entenmann?
Yes.
Urbanbach?
Yes.
Jameson?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Thank you. Council, is there any new business that we'd like to attend to?
43, sir.
Or item 43, if you'd read that into the record. Thank you. I'm sorry.
Report of the May 29, 2012 Notice of Transfers of Appropriations within Major Organizational Units.
Thank you so much. Council, any new business? Yes, Councilor
Mayor,
Anderson Jr.
I just have a question for Tracy Turback, if possible.
Yes. Director Turback?
Tracy, a question I forgot to ask. During the appropriation of the $4 million, that's what we were looking at, and we went a little over by $32,000. Where did that money come from, the $32,000?
The actual amount of the surplus was slightly more than $4 million. I think we, in our discussions, had rounded it to $4 million, but the actual surplus was $4,080,000, I believe, something along that lines. Okay. So those surplus dollars are there to cover that extra $32,000.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, Councilor Staggers.
I was going to ask.
Please.
Quick question.
Dr. Turback?
Yes. I'm sorry I forgot to ask this when we were talking about item number 40. But, with the $4 million, I was just curious, why isn't the sponsor the Sioux Falls City Council? It has down the sponsor as the mayor/finance. I was just curious.
The finance office prepared the documents and the agenda approval form, so that's we put ourselves down as sponsors for it. No particular reason other than that.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Well, Council, I want to thank you for your service tonight. If there are no more motions or new business, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, Sioux Falls, and make it a great night.